Konami Studios.
It brings me great discomfort and a whole lot of sadness to bring this review of the Animaniacs reboot. Now, I really liked the original series from the 90s. It was kind of before my time. It ended the year I was born. I'm a young guy. But I went back, when I watched those old ones, I'm like, there's something really cool here. It's very self-aware, very funny. It understands the kind of comedy it's trying to tell. It has a genuine heart and emotion that is really fun to see in comedy and in animation. Like, there's something so unique about its idea that it's like, let's take these characters, throw them onto the Warner Brothers lot, and just have fun. Just see the zany and creative world that they can create and the mischief they can get into, just doing random shit and kind of just destroying this idea of what a studio is. Then we got a reboot this year. The trailer came out. We all saw that skit with the Jurassic Park stuff, and it was really cool. We all loved it. Everybody saw them like, this is really awesome. Then we watched the actual show, and I remember just going through all these episodes and just thinking to myself, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I don't want this. Like, what is this show trying to say? What is this show trying to be? It doesn't feel like classic Animaniacs, and it is doing a damn good job of trying to prove that it's not. There is something to be said about comedy that is self-aware or self-referential, that kind of stuff. I think it's a very important part of comedy. You have to be able to make fun of yourself before you can make fun of others. That's always been a staple of like comedy and humor to me. But there comes a time when it's a little too much. One of the things I always talk about when I come up with these stuff, I talked about it when I talk about Dan Harmon, or I talk about Rick and Morty, or I even talk about other cartoons or shows like Deadpool. There's a difference between referencing something and then making a joke about the reference. It's not comedy just to call out why something is happening. You have to have a reason as to why you're doing that. It's why I didn't really like a lot of the later episodes of the new season of Rick and Morty, because it's just like, we're saying something, and the joke is supposed to be that we're saying it instead of actually doing a joke about it. That is a lot of this show of Animaniacs. A lot of this show is just saying how things are different in the modern day than what they were in the 90s, and how that can be a joke in on itself. It's not that funny to call it out like that. There are a few times where it works, not a lot. Even in the theme song, they call it out where it's like, here's like the gender neutral bathrooms, here's like a diverse cast of characters now. We get that. Why calling it out is going to make it funny or less interesting? It kind of just makes you guys look like assholes. Like, oh, we understand everything, so we're good like this. We're going to mock Trump and all this other stuff, and everybody's going to laugh and see how smart we are. Well, you're not being smart. You're being condescending and kind of dickish. And I really hate that feeling, especially for characters like the Animaniacs, because there's so much cool stuff with these characters. I wish we got that here. I really do, because it could have been something really interesting to see instead of just being like this trying to be satirical take on the characters we've seen before, and how in the 22 years since they've been gone, things have changed so much, and we have to make certain jokes and do certain things now, and we can't be who we used to be. There's whole jokes about here like being progressive and how people are different now, and how like, oh, a woman's a CEO and all that kind of stuff, and how things changed, and like the internet destroyed culture, and there's so much stuff to Trump, man. I get it. I don't need that. Like, I get it. You're self-referential in the original Animaniacs, but there is a heart to it that doesn't feel condescending or negative. But in this reboot, everything they do, every action they take towards making these jokes or a statement just comes across as so empty, and there's nothing to it. It just hurts me to see that that's where these characters went. That's how they got here. It actually sucks. And it comes to that point where I'm like, why was this the choice you made? Who saw what the Animaniacs were and said, that's the side of it we need to focus on? Not the zany stuff where it's making fun of the studio system or doing all that stuff with the characters. And there's some okay moments with the characters that Warner Brothers has in here. I will say that. But most of it's just like, I get it. It's not funny, but I get it. And also this idea that like, they talk about how like studios, they always reboot. Well, you're a reboot too. So calling it out, again, it's not funny. You could have made a joke out of it, but you didn't. You're just kind of saying that's what you are too. So you're coming at it, again, from a way that's very condescending to your audience. Your audience is smarter than this. You don't have to kind of like talk down to them in a sense. And even so, you're not doing that good of a job of talking down to them. The original voice cast is back. That's kind of cool to see. Everybody's still doing some great stuff there. It's really fun. And for the most part, the skits are fine. Like, I don't think there's anything where I was like, oh, this is stupid. The jokes don't land. I don't think I had a laugh out loud moment through any of it. And it's just like, this is really where we're going. This is again, it's that thing like, this is the direction we're taking. You just because you call out that something's a stereotype, that doesn't make it funny, okay? And I hate that about comedy, man, because you do other things with it. I don't know. There's a time where it works and a time where it doesn't. It didn't really land in this because it sounded like it hated his audience. It is what it is. There was some okay songs in here. I do think the Reboot It song from the first episode was fine. It was the most okay-ish one, I think. There's a whole other one where Wacko 2, he's just like, I don't even know how to describe. He's just singing about how, like, here's every reason that the world sucks today. Like, yeah, thanks, we know. I don't know. It's weird. Pinky and the Brain are back too, and it's that one's pretty much to me is your classic Pinky and the Brain stuff. Like, it's pretty much the same thing. There's not much to it. I didn't really feel anything towards it because I kind of could see the beats coming when it came to that stuff, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't think you need to break the mold with Pinky and the Brain. Like, there's not much more you could change that works for that. Kids are still going to understand, oh, Brain's really smart, he wants to take over the world. Pinky's trying to be the silly comic relief. Not much to it there. So I thought it was just okay. But man, I really wanted to like this a lot more than I did. It just came across so annoying and arrogant that I was like, really? This is what you're doing? This is kind of like... It's kind of how I feel like about SNL sometimes. Where SNL thinks their joke is funny, and sometimes it is, but at the same time it's like, hey, you know what's happening right now, right? This is comedy, right? Talking about stuff right now, that's comedy. There's a whole mansplaining thing, there's a whole thing about women suffraging, and it's like, it's handled so poorly. You're just like, oh, this isn't funny, this isn't interesting to see either. They're just and from the get-go, it's not even like, oh, there's some jokes here or there. Right from the get-go, you're like, really? This is where we went? It sucks. I really wanted to enjoy this and have a good laugh with Animaniacs because there is something inherently cool about those characters. There is something about them that could be like really fun to see because that classic cartoon from the 90s holds a lot of reverence in people's hearts. I, for one, like that show. I think there's some cool stuff in there. It's not my favorite of the ideas, you know? I just wish this was better. I really do. And it sucks that Animaniacs being introduced to a new generation just can't stick the landing and is trying to be a little too modern in a way that I hate. And not that being modern is bad. Modernize things, get a new audience, that's fine. It just misses the mark of the humor and the story and tries so hard to be something that is smug. And they even say smug about other stuff here. And it's like, yeah, calling it out's not funny. Calling out can be funny. It can be funny calling stuff out. But the way they called it out, it wasn't funny. It was just arrogant and rude. So this new reboot of Animaniacs, the first season in what I think is a 2-season deal at Hulu, I am going to give a 4 out of 10. Now, thank you guys so much for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And as always, you can check me out on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, all that good stuff. And I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.